It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and today I'm excited to have back to our new series on balance, special guest co-host, Erikka J. Erikka.
Hey bosses.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you, Ann?
Erikka. I'll tell you what, some days, I have to say, I always try to be grateful every day and find something to be grateful for. And so today I am grateful for my experience in the tech world. And I know you can identify with that because you are a tech girl as well.
Indeed.
Because I had a crash of my Twisted Wave, and crazy enough, the file that I thought was the right file was not the right file, and I lost it. But I will tell you that my experience back in the day was backup. So thankfully, I mirror everything onto another drive. And then not only do I mirror things on another drive, but I also back up to the cloud. So thankfully, what had auto-saved actually was in the cloud, and I was able to restore it. Thank God. And not have to worry about redoing all of this huge e-learning module that I just did.
I can hear the relief in your tone, Ann.
I know. And so I am grateful to have this kind of a, I was always told that I had like a 50-50 kind of a brain, like the tech brain and the creative. And I enjoy the two of them. And as a matter of fact, Erikka, I love the tech aspect of the business as much as I love voiceover, the creative aspect.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's important for successful VO entrepreneurs to have a little bit of a left-right brain thing, don't you think?
Absolutely. I talked before about, being an ambivert, and then I came up with the term, I think I'm ambibrained as well. I know it's not a real word. I made it up. I love the fact that we are able to be creative and true artists in this business and have that sort of artistic input. But you have got to have some type of technical and business and analytical aptitude to be successful as well. We are engineers, really, not as far as the audio engineers, the big ones at the studios, God bless y'all. But we have to be engineers in some capacity.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm so glad you said that. Like, let's just say that one more time. So in order to be successful in this business, it is so important to have both the creative and the analytical brain, because you have to be able to execute on both levels. You have to be able to understand how to convert your audio file to MP3, or you need to understand how to attach a file to an email, or you need to be able to literally, if somebody can talk you through a session on IPDTL or Source Connect or whatever that is, you need to have a little bit of an aptitude. Otherwise, clients may not have the time to be able to walk you through those things or deal with someone who doesn't know how to send them the work that they've requested and they're paying for.
Yeah, and it's not even just, I have a stack set up by one of the greats and I'm done, because you have to be able to have that sort of aptitude to know when you run into problems, as we know as tech girls always happens. Technology's going to technology. Something's going to happen, and you got to kind of have that sort of way of thinking to be able to troubleshoot and, kind of figure out, why aren't they hearing me on Zoom, or why am I getting an echo, or, that kind of thing. So that's really helpful in what we do.
I'll tell you, I always get nervous when I have my students will say to me, I'm not really good at technology. Well, and I understand that, right? Sure. I mean, for people to be excited about technology, sometimes it takes a special geek like myself, and I think you, to appreciate it. But also, it is a responsibility, right? It's a responsibility of your business to be able to function. And if you cannot function in a technical capacity or an analytical capacity that you need to, I think you need to have a full understanding of what it entails so that you can maybe hire or outsource, but also at least know what it takes to succeed and educate yourself. I think that's so important. If you're not really technical, go to a computer class, go to a class that helps you to do whatever it is. Go take an audio editing class.
Yeah, it's part of the job description. I mean, it's not just talking into a microphone. In 2022 and beyond, people aren't just walking into studios and just letting the engineer do everything anymore, talking and leaving. You have to know some of this stuff. And maybe, you're not 50-50. Maybe you're not naturally super tech savvy, but it's not like you can't learn it. There are so many classes courses that are available online where you don't have to go somewhere. It's possible, but you do have to, like Ann said, have some sort of aptitude. You have to.
And like you mentioned before, it's not like you're going to be an audio engineer for your career. We don't have to go to that level of depth, but we do have to understand how to produce a file in the format that the client has requested. And also we have to understand enough about our equipment so that we can, God forbid, something breaks. I am the biggest person. Like, I think rule number one for everybody technologically has to be have a backup, not just a backup of your files, but a backup of equipment as well.
Everything. Redundancy. Yes.
And internet. Oh my God. If you don't have the internet, we are sunk. Our internet goes down for like 30 seconds and I'm like, oh my God, who has taken down my internet? And I literally will run outside and look for people because we have fiber in the ground. I'm like, is there somebody working in the fiber underground? Because this cannot be. Our phone runs off the internet kind of thing.
Oh my goodness. I had somebody doing some work in my front yard and they swore that, all the lines were marked. The people came out and did them. I was like, did you guys hit a line? I lost my internet. I have a session. And they're like, no, we didn't hit a line. We're good. And I'm like, are you sure?
Oh, I know.
And, thank God I had a hotspot. That was my backup. But it was like...
See, yes. I was just going to say, please, for the love of God.
Oh, goodness. Please.
Have a backup internet, like a hotspot, and understand how to get it going. So if you're in the middle of a session and your internet fails, and please, the other thing I want to mention is... I can't stress this enough. And I even wrote a blog article. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to throw it out there in the ethers again. It's so important for you to, if you can, to have a dependable, reliable connection. And a lot of times Wi-Fi is not cutting it.
It's not.
And if you don't know what's happening on your Wi-Fi connection, if there's a lot of people, let's say, watching movies in your household, or maybe, I don't know, you've got something that's causing some sort of interference, right? Sometimes it's as silly as your refrigerator is causing interference and your Wi-Fi router is not reachable easily. It's just something that I constantly am telling people when they have a bad connection to me. An IPDTL, I'll be like, are you on Wi-Fi?
Yeah, you got to hardwire, guys. You have to figure it out.
And then it's hard to explain, but I just got it upgraded. Most people are like, no, I've never had a problem. I'm like, but here you really need to have, for audio quality, and this is just going to go back to my days, thankfully, in the tech world when I installed phone systems, but they were voice over IP phone systems. So literally, in order to hear audio consistently streaming quality, you have to have packet data back and forth with no drops and no interference and no slowness or degradation on the line. And so the same thing really has to happen with your connection to the studio, let's say through IPDTL or Source Connect. So the more reliable you can make that connection, and that includes your home connection, right? Connect wired to your router, because that's a whole lot more reliable because it's connected wired versus Wi-Fi in the air when 5-10 other people could be using your network or even your computers and you don't know.
You guys don't see me silently slow clapping in here. Listen to the boss. Listen to Ann, guys. You got to get the hardwire connection.
All about the hardwire connection. It's reliable.
It really is.
It is your business. If we didn't do most of our work online, it wouldn't matter as much, but it does.
Yeah. And it's not even just the internet, just like you said, having multiple ways to connect. You've got Source Connect kind of gets wonky. You got to have a Zoom or Google Meet or IPDIDL or something ready. Having more than one interface. I know these things cost money, but as you grow your business and you make set some aside for reinvestment in the business. Please don't just have one microphone. You don't have to have 10 of them like me, but because I'm a nerd.
What will you do if your interface fails before a session? I've had that happen.
Oh my God. Yep.
And a lot of times, I'm just going to say, I'm going to vent a little bit, Erikka, and I think
do it.
People will buy these bundled packages with a microphone, headphones, and interface. And
I did it the first time.
Okay, one of them is, I'm not going to say a name, but it's kind of a color.
It is.
And so
there's a letter associated with it.
The name is a color. So if you buy something like that in a bundled package, understand that they're probably making it cheaper with cheaper components. And therefore, those things that you rely on may fail at the worst time. And I have had so many people where that has failed on them. So please get a backup and don't get the same brand. Get a different brand that would be proven reliable. And, I got lots of suggestions. I have a page just on the VO Boss website. We have studio gear. So you can see all my recommendations. But the one that represents the color is not one of my recommendations.
Nah. I mean, it has worked. It got me through. I actually still have it like as a stand for my lamp to remind me of, how I started, keep me humble.
Oh, I had 2 of them. I had 2.
Hey,
I had 2.
It is great, but as you're growing and you're being relied on for live sessions, you've got to have something that, first of all, the hardware that's more reliable, and then a backup for sure. And it's everything. Cables, too.
I'm going to say your microphone.
Yes, microphone. Yep, microphones for sure. You got to back up.
I've never had a microphone fail on me, but
Same. Yeah.
I have to say it gave me a good excuse to buy an additional microphone.
Right, me too. Me too.
I'm going to say, bosses, it took me some time because I had a really decent microphone that I used for many years that made me money that was only a few $100s. It was wonderful. But then, I upgraded myself to the 416, which is what I'm speaking on now. And of course, I have a DLM 103 as well.
Yep.
So there's my AB. And by the way, have it not just as a backup, but if you can quickly switch from one to the other, it's not just, let me go get my microphone and then you got to rehook it up and then you got to thread the shock mount and that kind of thing. No, have it at the ready. So have a backup, have it at the ready. And I always recommend, I am not like a hardware kind of a girl and cables and this and that, but label your cables so that or take pictures so that you know how things are connected. And that way, if something goes wrong and you need to disconnect it or you got to replace a piece of equipment, you know how to connect it back again.
My dad is a hardware guy. That was his tech side. So a little bit of a nerd with the cables, just in terms of organization. And yes, I have blue painter's tape and I have this is the one for input 1 and I have it on 3 points of the cable so that I know which one I'm looking at just in case I have an off day. This is the one from input 2. Yep. And I've got backup cables too, just in case.
And levels too.
Oh my goodness.
Taking a picture of the dials so you know where your levels are. If somebody helps you set it up.
Speed tests for your internet.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So that is all the tech side. And it's funny, we end up talking about the tech side so much because I feel like that's where the 50 part of the brain is lacking for a lot of people that are struggling. Because the performance, they'll spend dollars on workshops for performance, on coaching, which I think is wonderful and amazing. But yet people don't necessarily think about that when it comes to the other part of the brain. And even if you can hire somebody and outsource somebody for the tech side of things, hey, look, I still hire somebody to set up my stacks and listen to me once in a while to make sure that everything there is good. And if I need advice in setting up, look, I want to add another microphone to this interface. How can I do this? And maybe switch it on the fly. I will call an audio engineer to help me do that. But also I need to have that understanding myself of how it all goes together and how it works and how it serves me in my business. So photos, diagrams, label the cables. I think that's important. And you can't be afraid of doing that. And I tell you, you learn the most when things break.
That is the truth. Keeping things balanced is knowing that you don't have to know everything. You do have to have some sort of understanding and some sort of aptitude, but it is okay to outsource to someone that is an expert in that area. Like you said, I still have people, I call Jordan or, Uncle Roy, Tim Tippett's, I have his class. We're still using and leveraging George Whittam. Yeah, absolutely. Those people that leverage their technical expertise because they are experts and that's where the most of their brain power is. But I'm not clueless. You know what I mean? And I think that's important.
I think you should always be curious. One of the reasons why I think I excelled in technology and enjoyed it so much in my career was it was very similar to being an entrepreneur. There was a problem that I had to solve. And it was cool because I got to solve many different types of problems. And it was fun and it was interesting and challenging to me. And that's very similar to as entrepreneurs. We have different things come up every day and we're solving problems for clients. We're solving problems with our business. We're growing. We're failing. And I have to say, Erikka, the episode that we did, and bosses, if you haven't heard it, on the modern mindset, Failing Forward, is an amazing episode. It was one of our most popular episodes about how you can fail. Like I just said, you learn so much when you fail. And you can fail forward so that it helps you to propel your business and expand your mind and learn. And I think that's where people need to be with the other 50% of whatever it is that you're maybe lacking. Maybe people are in technology. I love people that are in tech and then they want to get into voiceover because they love the creative part of it. But for me, being in tech and having to solve multiple challenges, and they were something new every day, that was creative for me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that because it's easy to kind of separate them, and we do that, we say left brain, right brain, creative or technical, but it's really, there is a space in the middle, like the software engineers that I work with, they are creating, they have ideas.
Sure.
And when we are problem solving or when we're troubleshooting, you're using that creative part of your brain to try to find a way around the problem. Mm-hmm. So it's absolutely a little bit of both.
Yeah. And I'm thankful for the amount of time that I got to spend in the technological world and solving problems because I think it helped me in my business. And it helps me also be more creative in my performance because I'm constantly, here's the problem, I'm thinking about what is the solution and what are the steps to get to the solution. Same thing when you're trying to analyze the script, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of breaking it down and then saying, okay, so what is the story of the script? What are the major points? Is there I always call it a crescendo in the story. Is there a call to action? Is there a turning point? And so that helps me to solve the problem, right, of the performance aspect of things. But also, I can use that same technique to solve problems with, let's say, my interface doesn't work or I'm not hearing anything in my headphones. What can I do to troubleshoot this problem?
I mean, that's basically what storytelling, usually it has that type of arc. The story, the script itself is laying out a problem, sort of, here's the solution, even talking about products. And it's like, if you understand that arc of problem solving, it's going to help you vocally perform that way to, here's the problem, here's the solution. Yeah. It's
what's
life.
So interesting is you can hear that in the voice, right?
Absolutely.
Here's a problem, but yet now I'm discovering a solution. And yes, the solution. So you can kind of hear the emotion and how I've evolved from the problem into, a solution. And that's so interesting that it's a really cool way to tell the story and evolve problem solving and voiceover.
Yeah, it's more intertwined than you think, that creative and technical side.
I like that. I like that. So what sort of things can you think of would help us to explore, let's say, the other side of our brain that maybe we want to work on and develop? Yeah. Any tips or tricks you got?
Because I guess, that could go either way. There are people that might be, and I know this was a problem for me starting out, is that I always kind of had some creativity in me, but I would default to technicals so quickly because it was analytical. Is this right? Are my levels good? Am I peaking? Like kind of getting, when am I reading all the words right? And that's when we get reedy, right? Like, Dave Noy always talks about the reedy read.
That's right.
And
when
that's
you
when we're
get too technical about it.
Yes, yes. So
absolutely.
There are some people that might be too far on the analytical side and need to, kind of get some of that creative going. So it's both. I think some of those tools that you can use is obviously the brain is all about repetition. It really is. So the more that you can learn about this stuff from different sources and just doing it on a regular basis, you can't do voiceover once a week and expect to get to a performance level of being a pro.
I love
you just
that you
can't
said that.
because you have to have that repetition and then your brain kind of starts to absorb it and do it on autopilot. I think that's the great ways to exercise both of those sides on a regular basis, just like muscles.
Yep, it's a muscle. And I'm always telling my students, it's, with 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell said that. 10,000 hours. Now, you don't have to spend 10,000 hours coaching, but I do believe you need to spend 10,000 hours working on your business, working on your performance. And as you were mentioning it, it's definitely a muscle because how are you going to perform if you've not experienced telling the story or experienced the process of, here's a script, let's break it down, let's analyze it, let's find out where are the main points, what's the story here, what's the backbone of the story. So many times we're so in a rush to go in, and what happens when you do that, you end up reading the story.
Yes.
And you don't want to read the story. You want to tell the story and be in the story to make it the most believable and most natural. So I think stepping through a process similar to how you would problem solve in terms of breaking down the script. And that doesn't have to take a long time. I have a lot of people that will ask me, because I do tons of long format narration, and they're like, well, do you mark up your script? And I'm like, no, because I've got my brain working faster than my mouth right now, because I'm reading ahead a little bit more to understand the story. And plus, I'm always reading the script fully once at a quick pace, usually. So I get the words out of my mouth. I understand where I need to breathe. And it helps me to grab the context of it. And I'll tell you what, if I can get that bionic app to put my scripts in, I think that would just really accelerate it even more. That could really be a
game changer. And the thing is, like, when you do that initial sort of read and understanding and connecting with the story, if you can understand the context and maybe connect it to something that is real to you, and if you can make that connection quick, it's going to make it easier for you to get through the script. Even if they're not your words, you can put it in the context of, oh, this did happen to me, and this is how I felt. And you voice in the way that you felt in that scenario. Right. It's going to make your performance better.
Absolutely. There has to be that element of you that comes into that story. And how many times do we hear that when we first enter into the industry? Oh, bring you to the party, and we need to hear you. We need, I'll say it till the cows come home. It is not about the voice that you think they want to hear. It's really about you and how you tell the story and your unique perspective. And your unique perspective means, what's the nuance of emotion? What's the point of view in the story? Are you in the story? Are you excited by the story? Are you sad? Are you solving a problem? What is it that you're doing? And so doing that, those steps of problem solving will help you, I think, to enhance the creative performance aspect.
Yes.
As well.
That's what makes us actors and not just voice, not just talkers.
Yeah. And I have so many students who say, well, I'm not creative at all. They come from a tech world, and I'm like, oh, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
And let me tell you how, because for me, that's all it was. It was about that.
Well, how do you think we got all this technology? Somebody was pretty creative to figure out that we could be on opposite sides of the country and be able to talk to each other.
God, I know. I say that all the time. Like, I would marry the internet if I could. I would marry the internet. It is one of the most wonderful developments. And back in the day, again, I'm aging myself. Back in the day when the internet was little more than DARPANET, I got so excited about the fact that we could communicate through the ethers and do really cool things on the internet. And it's just amazing how it can bring people together, technology. And that's, I think, where my love of technology comes from. And I'm not afraid of it because I kind of want to be on the edge of it. I want to learn new things. I want to see how it can continue to connect me with people.
Yeah. And it is definitely also a creative endeavor to imagine what's not already there. I mean, that's really what technology does. And then you just make it. So you can develop the creative side and you can develop the tech side. You can do it.
And let's talk not just tech, but I mean, I guess I'm considering tech like that's the other 50% of your brain needs to be tech. Yeah. But in reality, I think that's synonymous with, it can also be your accounting brain.
Yes.
Because we've got to send invoices and we have to be marketers. And so that's the other 50% as well. We have to sell ourselves because we're not going to be able to make money in the industry if people don't know about us. So somehow we've got to be out there and get creative and market. And that's where the creative, and again, tech will come into play because maybe you're going to do an email campaign. Maybe you're going to do social media. How are you going to get in front of these people? And we're going to have an episode in the future, I know this, Erikka, about SEO. And about how you can cut through the noise of the internet because, I love the internet. Over the years, it's gotten really popular.
Yeah, there's a few people on there,
Yeah, back in the day, I remember going, we'll never try to sell things on the computer. It's free. It's all about sharing research and education. And the funny thing is boy, did that not turn out the way I expected.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad you said that, though, because really when we talk about, left brain, right brain, it's really more like creative versus analytical. It's not just tech.
Exactly.
Because that business aspect is definitely leans more, I think it's actually somewhat centered because there is an element of creativity in business.
Agreed.
But you've got to be able to, like you said, either do your accounting or at least have somewhat of an understanding enough to be able to outsource it.
Well, and to be able to direct your accountant on what you need done, right? That's it.
Yep. And then there's the creativity of being able to direct maybe your graphic designer for your website. How do you want to be branded?
Yeah, I think you know that better than anybody. You're a project manager, right? So
yes.
You need to understand the processes that are happening in order to direct it. And as an entrepreneur of your own voiceover business, we need to be able to direct the people that we outsource. Like I need to be able to direct my accountant on, I need to know, what's my profit and loss? What am I spending my money on? And that sort of thing. So I need to be able to log into my accounting system to do that. And I'm going to bring up a point that I think, Erikka, you can relate to. Web hosting and websites. So many people are scared of their websites. Yeah. And for the longest time, I think if you didn't know how to write HTML, or you didn't know how to launch a website, or you didn't understand anything about it, website developers would hold you hostage. Yeah. And I'm like, you need to know how to get into your website, make sure your website is being backed up, make sure that you have copies of maybe a downloaded backup of it on your computer. And then if you need to change something, at least know how to log into your hosting provider and make a change, right?
Yeah. Or change the password to assign it to somebody else.
There you go. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. You just preaching the gospel here, Ann. I'm just here, I'm just here in the pew.
That's important. I can't tell you how many people I think the website it's one of those things that is beyond most people's brains or imaginations because they've never experienced it or never had to. But now I think it's important that everything that is an aspect of your business, right? Write down, all right, where did you buy your domain name?
Yes.
Who are you hosting? You have to know these things.
When's it up for renewal? Is it on auto renewal?
Right.
So that you don't lose it.
Oh my gosh. Can I tell you I have an Excel spreadsheet of all my subscriptions because you lose track so easily. Oh.
Were we born from the same person?
I think we were.
Because my Google Sheets are like shameful because, I've got one for medical. I've got one for personal. I've got one for business. Yeah. And I track my subscriptions too.
You have to track your subscriptions. That's just good business, right?
Yeah,
being a good business owner. Because you have to know your outgoing expenses as much as your incoming.
And your personal ones too. Yes.
Incoming.
Yeah. Not just the business ones because the personal, that's still your personal finance. It's still your money. So, track those. Make sure Hulu didn't go up on you or Netflix or whatever streaming service, so that you know how much is coming out.
Oh, my God. They do that. They sneak it on you.
If you have one of those home warranties and you don't need it anymore, they won't remind you, hey, you haven't used this. Do you want to cancel your subscription? No. They're not, so you need to make sure that you're using things that you're paying for.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that. So 50-50 brains, bosses. I think we need to develop whatever side that maybe you're feeling weak in. Educate. I think education is so important.
And again, don't be afraid to outsource. You don't have to be an expert in this stuff. Right. You don't have to feel like you got to know everything about tech and business and accounting. There are people that nerd out on this stuff and do it in their sleep.
Exactly.
Pay them, but just have a foundational understanding of what's going on.
That's very, very important. And I think overall, it'll help you run your business much, much better, much smoother. And again, it will take away a lot of the fear of, oh my gosh, I don't know anything about that, so I can't start my business or I can't continue my business or I got to hire someone, but I don't know anything. I don't know who to hire. I think education is the key to being able to understand enough about both sides to progress and be a success. Oh, right. My goodness. I could talk all day about that.
Oh, man. Time flies when you're having fun.
It sure does. Bosses, if you have a local nonprofit that's close to your heart, if you've ever wanted to do more to help them, you absolutely can. Visit 100voiceswhocare.org to learn how you can make a difference with your voice. And a big shout out to IPDTL, our sponsor. Gosh, I love IPDTL. I'm a tech geek. Love IPDTL because, again, it's that 50-50 part of my brain that says not only can I technically speak to somebody across the world, but we can also connect and engage and have the creative aspect of our part come together through the technology. So find out more at ipdtl.com. You guys have an amazing week, and we will see you next week.
Bye, bosses.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.